Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm great, BB. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to this new DataDome webinar. There's been a few over the past few months, and today we are going to address a specific topic, preventing fraud before it actually happens. So we dig into the topic, first I'd like to introduce myself. So my name is Benjamin. I'm a Chief Strategy Officer at DataDome, and I'm here with Paul today, our talented VP of Product. Paul, hi and welcome.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Everyone joining today. It's going to be an exciting topic to cover.
Exactly. So preventing fraud before it happens. I think what we're going to do, we're going to give it a few minutes so that everybody has time to join in. Then a question will pop up on your screen. So take 1 or 2 minutes and try to enter it. It will give us a clue as to how exposed you are to fraud-related issues, and then we'll dig right into the presentation. So I think if we can have the question pop up now, that would be a good time. So the question is, as you can see on your screen, account fraud. So we are talking fake account creation, account takeover. All of that is on the rise, and we'll give you a few examples. What we want to know is how concerned you feel, and you are personally about becoming a victim. Very concerned, somewhat concerned, or you don't really think about it, to be honest. So take a few minutes, think about it, and submit your vote, and we'll share the results in a few minutes. All right, before we get to the result of that poll, of that question, maybe we can start with sharing with you a figure. So we don't want to bias you in any way, but still, over the past 12 months at DataDome, we've stopped in real time more than 257 billion attacks, online fraud attacks, that is. And if you are wondering, that's about 8,000 attacks per second. I did the math, not live, but I did the math. So it's a huge number, of course, and it's kind of aligned with the answers that we've been getting in the poll today, because 75% of you feel very concerned about account fraud, and another 20% feel somewhat concerned. So we know that it's a topic that is very top of mind for everyone, not only for professionals, but also for internet users as a whole. It's been in the spotlight over the past, I would say, couple of years now, and modern e-commerce and digital business organizations are expected to protect their users from this kind of fraud. Let's dig into what we mean by online fraud. I think that's one of the first key topics that we want to address today, and we want to share a few pieces of information with you to highlight how big of a problem online fraud has become for current businesses. And the first thing that we wanted to highlight was that fraud comes in many different flavors. And sorry, I forgot to mention it, but there's a chat. Feel free to use it. Feel free to ask questions as we go, and we'll try to address as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. So fraud comes in many different flavors. There's everything that happens publicly. When we talk about scraping content on a website, when we talk about layer 7 DDoS, so attackers trying to bring down or slow down a website or a mobile application, all of that doesn't require any kind of login, for instance, into the mobile application or the website. So this is public-facing kind of fraud. And then there's everything that happens behind closed doors. All the fraudulent activities that do require for the attacker to be logged in to your systems to carry out their deed. And this is where we'll find account takeover, credential stuffing, fake account creation, payment fraud, carding, all of these fraud that collectively are a huge business hazard for your organizations. The pain points are usually very different. For everything public-facing, again, we're talking about scraping, layer 7 DDoS. The main pain point is usually that you are experiencing server overload, you are experiencing increased bounce rate, for instance. So, very clear kind of signals that something weird is happening within your traffic. And for everything that happens behind login, the account takeover, the credential stuffing, the fake account creation, usually there's some deep business impact. It could be increased failed logins, for instance, that you cannot explain, or that your business and marketing teams cannot explain. It could be a plummeting conversion rate at some point still that you cannot explain. Skyrocketing payment decline rates, and we all know how much that can cost. And of course, an increase in chargeback disputes, so other solutions, other services in your infrastructure that will charge you back when they have to handle fraudulent transactions. And so these pain points can be very detrimental to business, as you can imagine, and it's not going to end tomorrow, because what we see, and not only what we see, but what the market is saying, is that all of the fraud that happens behind closed doors, so the account fraud and the carding attacks, for instance, have been massively increasing in 2021, in 2022, and I'm sure we're going to come out with very similar numbers for 2023. And on our end, Paul, I think you've extracted a few examples as well.
Yeah, we went into the data and we actually took a look at what our typical customers' week looks like. In any given week, somewhere between 40 45 customers are being attacked. This data runs from last year, about the start of June, all the way through the end of this year, end of April. And so we've seen a consistent type of volume, but steadily on the rise, more and more customers every week being attacked. And then as we dive into those attacks, what we see is really a volume of traffic. So a lot of pressure on the login endpoints, a lot of pressure coming via the API and mobile app logins, steady activity around account creation, trying to create false accounts, trying to create fraudulent accounts, and then actually a very small trickle of follow-on activity trying to log into those fake accounts being created. So at the very, very bottom of the graph, you can see just a little trickle of that activity. What we're trying to do is obviously get ahead of this and trying to block before we see accounts created. We're trying to block at the login endpoint and make sure that the automated attacks that are being targeted at these points, as you just mentioned, are being snuffed out before they have any detrimental impact. But it's a very real problem. It's something we see consistently and we know customers struggle with on a regular basis.
Thank you, Paul. So our next topic will be to try and understand why this fraud is so hard to actually fight off. And maybe one thing it's not only about, so as you see that fraud is massively increasing and it will keep increasing. And it's not only about being able to detect more and more sophisticated bots. It's a bit more complicated than that. And maybe what we will start by doing is having a look at how an attack actually gets crafted. So how do a hacker or an attacker go about creating the perfect attack? There's a few constraints that they will take into account when they design their attacks. The first one is the scope of the attack. Are they going to target websites or mobile applications, not the same kind of technology? Are they going to target a single organization or the overall e-commerce of a specific country, for instance? Is it going to be country specific or is it worldwide? And is there any kind of a time frame? Are they interested in targeting a very specific time frame because you are launching, I don't know, a limited edition sales on your website, for instance? Or is the attack supposed to be lasting longer than that? The second constraint is the complexity of the attack. Are we talking large volumes or surgical hits? Are we talking about a high level of interaction complexity? So will the attack require to be interacting with human beings or chatbots, for instance? So how sophisticated does it have to be? The third one, of course, is cost. Is there any open source libraries or any SaaS technologies available to design this attack? Will they need to rely on residential mobile proxies, which obviously is more expensive than other type of IPs? And the last but not least constraint is the expected return on investment. Are we talking large volume but low value items? Are we talking low volume but high value kind of attack? How exposed is the target of the attack? AKA what kind of damage are they going to do? And of course, what is the resale value of whatever they are going to try and get from your mobile application or your website, be it, personal data or items or whatever. And based on this constraint, that's why it's difficult to fight off fraud, because it's not only about trying to anticipate the evolution or the sophistication of a bot. Every attack is unique, and every attack actually relies on the attacker using all the tools at their disposal. So an attack is, in effect, a combination of very basic bots. They are cost efficient. They are used for a large volume type of requests. They usually use for scraping content, for instance. They multiply simple human actions. Are they going to use more sophisticated bots, AI-powered bots, more expensive, but used for high-value fraud? They mimic human interactions. They usually use residential proxies. Are they going to go all the way up to using human-powered bots? So this is not when bots are not enough. This is when they will use CAPTCHA switch-up, for instance. So human beings passing CAPTCHAs on behalf of bots, or session warm-up kind of situations. The session warm-up is basically when the attacker will browse a website or mobile application themselves, or send someone to browse manually a mobile application or a website to create a virtual fingerprint, a human fingerprint, and try to trick us into thinking that it's a human being browsing the application and not a bot. And sometimes it's not even about bots. Within every attack that we see nowadays, part of the attack is actually carried out by human beings, illegitimate human beings, but human beings nonetheless. Our job has evolved over the past couple of years. It used to be about being able to detect if a request came from a bot or human beings or sophisticated bots or etc., etc. It doesn't really matter anymore. Our job now is to be able to detect, to anticipate the intent of a visitor. And when I say visitor, could be a bot, could be a human being. But our job is to know if this visitor is likely to attempt account takeover on your mobile application or website. Are they likely to be using stolen credit card information? Are they likely to create fake accounts to abuse your business? So our job is to be able to detect if they are who they say they are, and if they should be doing what they're doing with your mobile application or with your website. So how do we detect intent, for instance? Paul, maybe you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, being human really no longer gives you the pass. Now we're looking at behavior. We're looking at what activity a human user or any user, automated or unautomated user, is driving into a website, and we're analyzing that behavior to drive, as you mentioned, the intent of what this session is trying to drive against an application or a website. When we detect at all layers simultaneously. So this is something that we have learned, I think, based on the dynamic nature of fighting bots. Bots often use different infrastructure, different tools, different client technologies, and they will, as you mentioned, warm up a session with a human user and then transfer that over to an automated tool to extract whatever inventory or other attacks that they might have, even after they're logged in. And so we have to monitor all these elements simultaneously, understanding that the session is not something that we can just approve and then let that go on as normal anymore, just because of the hybrid nature of the attacker and how they're trying to leverage their tools to penetrate our defense. What we can also do is add new signal. Currently, we track over 3 trillion signals based on event every day, and we're adding additional signal, and then the combination power of adding just 1 or 2 more signals with the additional signals that we're already collecting adds significant power and visibility into our detection. So as we continue to add signals one by one, and in this case, we add a customer ID signal, now we're able to look at really powerful analytics and drive insights, as well as protect based on that just single additional signal or a few additional signals. And so that's really had some fantastic results. One example is that we installed on a particular environment that was suffering from a significant amount of credential stuffing attacks. We installed at about 4 p.m. that afternoon, and we immediately saw that their current solution was not protecting them against bot attacks. So the bot herders, the attackers had figured out a way to work around their current defenses. Immediately after install, we saw an attack that was ongoing. The customer had been talking about it and was aware that this was happening. We saw that traffic. It spiked as we finished the install. That continued on for about 25 minutes of us both monitoring and stopping that attack. And then you see the actual attacker start to wind the attack down. That doesn't mean that they didn't come back in a few hours, but obviously now the defenses were different. They had to try to retool, which they have yet to be able to successfully do. And we continue to protect this environment from really a targeted level of effort to attack and to take over their accounts and their known user accounts to steal effectively credit within the system that the website provides.
And it's what's amazing is that what we've done with one of our customers, what they did actually was they measured account takeover 80 days before they installed DataDome and 80 days after they activated DataDome, and the results are just amazing. As you see here, prior to DataDome, it's a hospitality enterprise, a hotel enterprise. And as you can see, the 346,000 attempts of account takeover that they saw before having DataDome activated turned into a bit close to 9,000 attempts 8 days after DataDome was actually set up. So it's about making sure that we keep them protected in the long run. That's a 97% reduction in account takeover attempts. And when we have a look at actual account takeovers, so cases when account takeover actually went through, it went from a bit of a 4,000 account takeover situations 80 days before DataDome was activated to a mere 31 cases after 80 days after DataDome was activated, which is close to 100% decrease, 99% in that case. And that's not all, because when we start protecting the accounts, all of the journey actually benefits from it. So when we make sure that the accounts are not compromised, we also contribute to making their payment section much more safe. As you can see here, 80 days, 90 days before having DataDome, they had close to 400,000 payment declines. So sessions that went all the way through the funnel to the payment and actually proceeded with using some kind of credit card information, payment that was later on declined, costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is what we are talking about here. And it went from that many declines to a bit of a 17,000 decline items 90 days after DataDome was actually set up, which is a 95.5% reduction over the period. This would save this is saving this customer about $374,000 over a 12-month span, which more than pays for the solution.
So how do DataDome's users feel about fraud prevention? One of the things that we often want to do is we want to do as much before the login as possible. So we want to get ahead of any type of access to more sensitive data, more sensitive functionality of an application, and identify those attackers very, very, very fast and very, very early. So we try to identify these types of events before login and try to identify all compromised accounts that they're trying to log in through to provide that visibility back to our customers so that they can take the proper action. The three benefits that we focus on is that we know that detection accuracy is the most important element. Being able to identify a bad user, a bad actor from a good user is the most important thing for any protection device or defense device in place. And so we pride ourselves on a very, very low false positive rate. We pride ourselves on a very, very accurate detection capability. That's something we're constantly evolving with, and we're watching to see the state-of-the-art attacks, and we're updating our capabilities to deal with those, so that there is really no real 0-day type threat anymore for our customers. More importantly, we want to make that easy. So reduce all friction from installing our solution, leveraging our solution for protection, and then understanding what they're getting as results. And fundamentally, we know that we have an aggregated point of intelligence, of visibility, and of access of some of these threats. And so we want to be a force multiplier for the team. We want to be able to leverage our aggregated view to help your team be successful, to help bring insights, but also expertise operationally on a day-to-day basis to make sure that dealing with the cat and mouse game that is online fraud is something that you have an advantage towards. And so we want to, of course, multiply your team through that effort. We have added specific analytics and dashboards for tracking user IDs as they go through your application, looking at all the domain information, so we can see all the domains on your application through one view. You can look based on the users that we're looking at, what their activity looks like, what their experience has been like, what impacts they've had, both positively and negatively, in their journey through your application. And then we operate on an autopilot capability, but allow you to drill in and take control as needed. So we try to automate as much of the defense environment as possible to ensure that you're successful leveraging these capabilities. But if you can't be, and you don't have to be at the console all day, certainly you're going to take a break and your team is going to transition from day to night. But the system is always working, and our team is always vigilant, helping support any kind of events and seeing any kind of new activities that we can augment through our detection. And so those are the things that we try to deliver in every scenario. And this scenario, given the pressure that we're seeing in the real world, is something that we're very, very focused on delivering for you. And we've seen a ton of positive results, as BB just mentioned. I'll transition back to you.
This is the kind of the testimonials that we get from our customers. So what they are saying is, once DataDome is activated and once we are in charge of fighting off fraud for them, they see almost immediately a decrease in fake account creation attempts. So they can see in their own logs and in their own KPIs and business metrics that this is working. There's much fewer fake account creation attempts. Of course, that leads to also a decrease in account takeover. Altogether, as we saw, we're talking about 99% of account takeover attempts and account takeover situation, which is huge, and which is what you should expect, and no less. They see an immediate increase in conversion rates as well, which is always good for business, as you can imagine. And they see a massive decrease in payment decline rates. So the fact that we are protecting their businesses against all types of account fraud actually trickles down the whole customer journey, and they can see business benefits all the way through, saving them, as I was saying, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in chargebacks, in manual reviews, taking a lot of time to their teams, in disputes with their payment service provider, for instance, and last but not least, in reputational damage. The poll that we launched at the beginning, 73 plus 15% of you being wary of account fraud in your own personal situation. This is what this reputational damage is all about. Nowadays, like a massive chunk of any business customers will just leave the brand without thinking twice if they knew that the brand or the website or the mobile application was exposed to account fraud. This is the main benefits that they get, and that you can get as well if it's something that you're experiencing. Of course, we have a free trial. So what that means is that in a couple of minutes you can get started with DataDome, and you can start actually measuring the level of threats that you are exposed to. You can start analyzing the types of attacks that we see hitting your mobile application and your website live, and you can start designing with us a response strategy to make sure that your business stays safe from all types of account fraud. And alternatively, of course, feel free to reach out to us and book a demo of DataDome bot and online fraud protection. There's a pop-up that just showed up on your screen. So if you hit that button, that call to action, you'll be taken to a page and you can just book a demo with us. Thank you. If there's any question, of course, feel free to reach out to us. Either Paul and I will be more than happy to answer these questions. And if there's any additional information that you need from us, visit our website, datadome.co. You will find most of the great content that we have on there. And well, hopefully you've learned something with us today. And we'll see you soon for another webinar shortly.